That's what you do. You buy these players that cost money and make a difference in it. But we never do that.
Never complains, gets up, gets on, with a smile on his face.
They just want you to sit in your chair and go, hip hip hooray, to the Western press and the Western narrative, regurgitating the same old, same old, same old, every single day, without the truth. If you haven't seen it before, please watch the first few episodes, the second series, something like that. Stallone.
We are on the site of the castle.
And it was the first time the Beatles had really stopped being semi-professional almost.
Look at that.
Absolutely fascinating.
I'm awfully, like, if you're there, I'm so sorry. I really am, because it just, I couldn't get on. There's a big tons clap. Does anybody, Scousers here, did you hear the big tons clap before? I think that bink and just knocked everything. And I've been trying to get on ever since, even at 7 o'clock. But anyway, I'm here now, and I didn't think I'd get back on tonight, I'm being honest. I really am, being honest. But anyway, I'm here, and I hope that it's hard. I know that Myra was here, I know that Youssef was here, and because I've seen the messages. Seen them, look, Edward, Myra, Edward, Youssef, all here, the big Anfield, look. Saying hello to everyone. Even Daryl, I mentioned, Daryl was the only one I could get hold of, to be honest. And see if anyone else, the Anfield Roar's back. I think it may have cut off of the... But anyway, I'm here. And as the Anfield says, I'm so glad, looking forward to this tonight. Thank you. And Tony, the mince pie man. See, look, see, I'm out of sync here. Mad, isn't it? I'm out of sync. But anyway, there's loads to talk about actually tonight. And I'll tell you, good evening, Tony. I'm sorry, mate. And that'll say, you confused me, Franco. No, when I texted you, I didn't think I'd be able to get back on because I couldn't get on. I've been trying since 7 o'clock to try and connect. And I came up that your net's down. Check everything. And I still think it's a bit funny because I'm out of sync here. I can see myself being out of sync. So I'm very lucky. I just thought I'll give it a last try, because I give it everything a boost. And it just came on. I was in the living room because I gave it a boost, put it back on, and I seen it on my big telly in the room, the living room. Just something came up on the stream, not this, like. And then I came in and just tried to do it again. And there I am. Oh, there I am. So anyway, Get Starmer out now with FSG. Would you rather have owner Liverpool, Starmer or FSG? Anyway, what I wanted to talk about, I remember something about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago now. I read something about some French fella, some French, what it was. I don't know whether at the time, thinking, I don't know whether he was a journalist or whatever, but I know that he was in Ukraine delivering stuff. And he mentioned, it came out about Bucha, or Bucha, which is in Ukraine, suburb, or one of the little towns around Kiev. And it came out that the Russians have been committing war crimes against the civilians of Bucha. And at the time I thought, I couldn't see that because Putin came out and said, don't attack civilians. So I never heard anything. He said it wasn't the Russians. That was the crux of the thing, the message that he put out. And never heard anything after that. I never heard another peep after that. Now, I don't watch any Western narrative, where any news, anything. I really don't. And yesterday or the day before, the Russian diplomat at the UN, he gave out a speech, and he brought up the atrocities about Bucha. He brought it up. And he has witnesses. So I was sitting there and I was listening to this very intently, but he was going on. He was going on about, that it was all make-believe, it was all propaganda by blaming the Russians. This is what he was going on about. It was a bit of a long speech he was giving. Then all of a sudden, he said, I've got witnesses about this. And all of a sudden he had these witnesses in the background on Zoom. And one of them was a Frenchman by the name of Adrian Bockham, something like Bouquet, something like that. And what he was delivering, along with a doctor, medical doctor, and a nurse, medical equipment. And he said, this is the Booker thing. And he said, when we got there, he said, we were given out, the medical aid was for children. He said, but these Azovs were taking away the stuff, the medical stuff. He was taking it away. He said, but anyway, we were going about doing our business. That's what we were there for. He said, I had no affiliation with Ukraine. I had no affiliation with Russia. I was there giving out medical aid. Now, I don't know whether anyone had seen this. I'd seen it. This is why I don't watch the Western narrative, whether it was shown on and this is at the UN the day before last. This was at the UN. And he went on to say, he said, then all of a sudden what we seen was these vans. He said, when we were there, all the streets were clear. There was nothing about. Then all of a sudden, we seen these vans pulling up, putting bodies in the streets. They were already dead, these people. They were already dead. And apparently he said that they came from the northeast of Ukraine. That's what he was told later on. He said, so they were putting them there. He said, when we got there was no Russians, no bodies, nothing there. No one. He said, then all of a sudden, as I said, all these bodies started appearing out of vans. They were piling them out of vans and putting them all around the streets. And he was wondering why. Then they were chased. They went into this like warehouse sort of thing. And what he seen with 3 Russian soldiers with a Russian officer. And you know, whatever they were doing, he said. Then we heard gunshots, and what these Azovs did was shoot these Russians in the knees, the Russian soldiers, and went over and executed, shot in the head, the Russian officer. He said, then we were cleared out. He said, we were very lucky to get out alive. He said, I went to. He said, I went to Russia to see what was, happening there, to see if they've heard anything about this. He said, and he went to the Donbass. He says, and I was shocking there because the Ukrainians were still there. He said, we feared for our lives, the doctor, the nurse. He said, we feared for our lives. He says, and I got back to France. And he explained this. And I was told, he said, when I explained this, he said, I ended up losing my family. I ended up losing my home, lost my job, lost everything. I lost everything, he said. Now, I don't know whether you've seen, let me know if you've seen this at all. Please let me know if you've seen any of this stuff. Know how I got it? There's an Indian newspaper called Hindustan or something like that. Hindustan. And it's brilliant. It comes out with like little programs. And that's how I got this thing at the UN the other day. Gives you the date and everything, about it, on the program. It wasn't said months ago or anything like that. It was said the other day, on the 3rd of April, at the UN. And he has other witnesses. And this lad, this French fella, he said there's other witnesses, he said as well. He said that nurse, she's the witnesses. So is the doctor. What we've seen with our own eyes. He said then we knew that they blamed the Russians. And when I heard that they were blaming the Russians, that's when I came out. I said, no, it wasn't the Russians. They had left. They'd gone. There was no one there. There was only the Ukrainians, and these vans pulled up with these bodies and started to put them in the streets. And then they blamed the Russians for executing them. So what they must have been doing, they must have been killing ordinary people in the Donbass, executing them, Russian-speaking people, and bringing them to Kiev or Bucha and laying them out, saying that the Russians killed them. It's what you call a dirty war, a propaganda war. Now, I don't know what's happened since. I don't know what's happened. But this lad has lost everything. This lad has lost everything. This French fella. Does anybody else see that? Because if you've been watching, like the BBC or ITV, you still watch that news, would they put that on? because I don't think they would. I really don't think they would, because it'll have people who believe in the BBC and ITV and all these stupid propaganda news people. It's just, start thinking. Because this is in the UN, the United Nations, New York, the other day, as I said, on the 3rd of April. Did anybody else see it? No? Let me know, please. If you're still with me, that is. Please let me know. And this is what you're at. This is what you're at. This is what's going on. Remember the ceasefire? Supposed ceasefire on energy structure. Well, he was breaking that. Zelensky. And they're still holding it. The Russians, they are still holding it. Still holding the ceasefire. Because Putin's a very patient man. And he said, just let go, don't do anything. Just leave it. Let's come up to this 30-day ceasefire. And then we'll just come out and see what happens. And people are wanting ceasefires. Why should we do a ceasefire? Why should we do a ceasefire? And Trump's coming out, isn't he, saying about he wants to end this war. He could easily end it. And he knows he can. But he's in and out. He's in and out. Trump. He's in and out. He's calling Putin for everything. Then all of a sudden he's saying, oh yeah, he's all right, I just can't make him out. And who did he bring in? Today or yesterday? Because you had a fella named Dmitry who's over in Washington, for trade. Russian, because this is what Trump wants, he wants trade between Russia and, because America cannot afford to lose trade with Russia. I don't know whether you're aware of that. Russia has so many minerals, they have especially wheat. Especially wheat. America needs the wheat, the grain, and it's all in Russia. It's all in Russia. I suppose you didn't know that, but believe it, it is. The world cannot do without Russian wheat or grain. This is why there's no embargo, really, in the Black Sea to get the grain out. There's no embargo on that. There's no sanctions on Russia for that. And they've had so many sanctions off the EU and everybody else. Don't forget who blew up the Nord Stream for cheap gas to keep the industries going throughout Europe. It's just nuts. It really is nuts. And the EU keep coming out with this propaganda. You only had Mark Rutte yesterday or today, whenever it was, saying that they're the biggest threat as Russia. They're going to take over Europe. Is he right? Is he right? Is he right in the head? A complete idiot, a failed Belgian politician, and he's coming out and saying this. As the CEO of NATO. Hasn't a clue. But he has a clue. He knows the score. Because he just hates Russia and he's given out all the verbal. And it's wrong. It's wrong for them to say this. It's so annoying. It's so annoying. Frankie, you all right, lad? I heard it, mate. Thank you. Thank you, Anfield. I made up that someone heard it. I made up because as I said, I go onto the alternative news. Whether you've seen that on the mainstream news here, because I don't follow that at all. I don't follow it at all. So made up you're seeing that about the Russian diplomat at the UN. He's not the main diplomat. I forget the main diplomat's name, but he spoke perfect English, came out and said it, what he was had to say. And the likes of Mark Rutte, this dope, he knows this as well. He knows it. And yet, because he's a Russophobe, he's coming out with all these. It's not propaganda, it's lies. It's blatant lies. He's telling blatant lies. And it's so annoying. I'm going to have a swig of this. I hope you don't mind. The biggest bottle in the world. Said to our Francine, get me some water. She said, okay, Dad. Setting on it. It's one of those, has to be sugar-free, like. It's strawberry flavoured water. No sugar whatsoever. It just gives a bit of a flavour. That's big up, Frank, mate. Hope you're well today. Yes. I wasn't before trying to get this on. It was crazy. Gary, even and everyone. Does anybody hear that big thunderclap before? I think that's what knocked this. Does anybody hear it? Let me know. Because I think that's what, I just couldn't get on. And I said, I think I'll be early for the change. I couldn't get on. Maybe that's why. Oh, this fella's so early. So you see the way it works? Do you see the way everything works against everybody? Then you had Rutte saying, as I mentioned, about Russia wanting to, we've got to be careful, then he went on about China. He went on about China, saying that they're a big danger. They're waiting to see this war's over. And he's in charge of NATO. Now he's worrying about, he's coming out and saying about China. Now China, where's China? Isn't it in the South China Seas? Where's NATO? What does NATO stand for? North American, isn't it? What is it? North American what? North Atlantic, I'm sorry. The North Atlantic. South China Seas and North Atlantic. It's shocking what they're doing. Then he brings in Iran. And North Korea. So if you notice, since the Americans and Biden came out with that little saying, the axis of evil, which was Russia, or which is Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. And he's come out and said it. When is North Korea going to invade Russia, Europe, please? Or are they going to, well, like they're helping in the Ukraine, not one bit of evidence, not a shred of evidence about North Koreans in Ukraine in the Kursk Creek. Not one shred of evidence, because Zelensky was coming out saying that all them North Koreans so fucking wealthy were they? Russia are fighting NATO. People don't realise NATO, it's not Ukraine army, because they've gone them. It's NATO that fight with Ukrainian uniforms on and loads of mercenaries. That's who they're fighting and destroying, by the way. Destroying. But this Rutter was saying this at the NATO diplomat thing or whatever it was in Brussels. And Rubio was there. Rubio, just to emphasise why he was there, he said, "Oh, we're not leaving NATO," he said, "but you've got to pay your dues. So it's 5% we want off you. Now that 5%, Europe can't afford it, because Europe has gone into recession. Europe has gone into recession. I went shopping today with my daughter for myself. For me. She brought me. My bill came over to over £100 to feed me for a week. Over £100. How much was it? 114 quid or something like that. 114 quid, my bill. It's just nonsense, honestly. Inflation is right up there. And this country here, we're in a terrible state. And Starmer, I don't know what he's doing. I keep emphasising this. I used to say there are 5.2 million children below the poverty line in this country. It's gone up by 200,000. It's 5.4 million children now since this fella's been in. And yes, he's given money to Zelensky, Ukraine. And it's still the most corrupt country on the planet, Ukraine. It's a big washing machine for the money laundering. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. It's a matter of, you can either sit there and take it or do something about it. This is why the likes of freedom of speech is gone. You can't say anything. And what Rubio saying that about, by the way, about putting 5% on. Trump is all these tariffs he's given out to the world, because what did he say? Let's make America wealthy again. Their debt is the most anything. It's like $33 trillion they're in debt. And who do they pay that to? Any idea? America own everything. That's why, they can put out tariffs. That's why they can put out sanctions. Russia, they're not bothered. All the sanctions. And they're thriving that they've got All the sanctions that the EU and America under Biden threw at them, they're thriving. So who's got it right and who's got it wrong? Do sanctions work? It's backfired. Europe is struggling, really struggling. Look at all the colour revolutions as well. What's happening? It's happening in Serbia. Remember Georgia? The colour revolution there, with all the little EU flags, you know, these like students, but all the little EU flags. It's happening in Romania, when you had the likes of Georgescu, who was well in the lead, and von der Leyen cancelled the elections. They had him arrested, so he couldn't put in his papers again to go in for the presidency, which is next month in May. This is all coming from Brussels, and they're saying about democracy. They're saying we're saving Ukraine for democracy. Their democracy. Have you seen a fucking democracy? What democracy? All the opposition are in jail. And what came out, just like that UN thing about bullshit, the investigative journalists who were thrown in jail right after the Maidan, after the 2014 Maidan coup d'etat, they were thrown in jail because they were saying this is wrong, this, to overthrow a legitimate government. And they were all thrown in jail. Television people who were on their telly, you know, saying this is wrong, you know the way we have opposition and whatever, even on television. But we've gone the same now. We've gone the same as them. You can't say anything. This is why I don't watch the BBC or ITV. You've got to go along with their narrative, what the governments are telling you. So that's your freedom of speech gone. And that was the same what was happening in Ukraine. But all these investigative reporters who were jailed, they were conscripted into the army and sent to the front line. So what's happened to them? Most probably being killed. Most probably have been killed by now. And that's what was happening to them. And they're still in jail. You've got the opposition, you know, politicians. They were jailed. Some weren't, but some were, a lot were, who were very vociferous against the regime, Zelensky's regime. But who controls Zelensky? That's the main question. Who do you think controls him? It's not America. It's not here. Remember just a few weeks ago, excuse me, remember just a few weeks ago when Boris Johnson, it wasn't a few weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, when Boris Johnson came out and said, when he went over in the April to Istanbul, when they were signing the peace agreement and everything, and he went over and said no, under Biden's orders, by the way. We're the lapdog, you see. Biden said to him, get over there and tell them not to sign that peace agreement, because they want a war, you see. America loves wars. America loves wars. They can't go without a war. And that's just for the military complex, by the way. Building them up, making lots of money. It's terribly corrupt, you know, America, especially Congress and these senators. They're getting money, they're getting paid off these industries, military industries that make all these things. Big bombs, planes, everything. They're getting paid to keep it going. But now that the war's ending in Ukraine, they're looking somewhere else. But anyway, this is what it's all about. It's making money. Ukraine is a massive washing machine. I'd love, honestly, I'd love Trump to ask what Biden's bank accounts like before Ukraine and after Ukraine. Money laundering. Because billions went into the Ukraine and billions went missing. Zelensky's made billions. A comedy actor, that's all he was. He played the piano with his, you-know-what. The little Zelensky playing the piano. That was his comedy act. But who controls him? Who keeps, who controls Zelensky? In your opinion, who controls him? Please. The black and white boy. Hey, black. Hey, boy. You're okay. And he says we need to keep funding Zelensky's wife's new Ferrari. I was told she paid, could have been for that, I don't know, $4.2 million for a car a month or two ago. I just don't know anymore. That's Zelensky's wife. But who controls it? I'll tell you, because you're not going to tell me. It's the Azovs. He's terrified of them. And all the scripts that he's coming out with, what he's saying, they're written by them. That big Ermac, have you seen him? His chief of staff, as they call him. Big 6 foot odd fella like that, built like that. He's always with him. Big Azov fella. Everything he's saying, he's there. Everything. That's who controls it. They're terrified for the war to end. Can you tell me why they're terrified, the Azovs? Just have a guess. Why are they terrified? You've only got to look up Bucha as a being, or Bucha, whatever, B-U-C-H-A, however way you want to pronounce it. Because whoever did that will be up for war crimes. They will get captured. And Zelensky will get captured as well. They'll make sure, because, you know, The Hague, that's finished that. Where you can put people on trial. Finished that. the international courts, the ICC, International Criminal Court, finished. So I think it'll be countries themselves who'll be putting war criminals on trial. I don't think there's a safe place for Vladimir Zelensky. I don't think there'll be a safe place for him. There's not even a safe place in Ukraine, especially with those people behind him. I really believe his days are numbered, one way or the other. Really believe that. So this is what we have. This is what we have going on. Then you have Netanyahu breaking ceasefires to kill more civilians. That's who to kill them. And what's the excuse? What's the excuse? Hamas. And we're allowing it. We're going along with it. Us here in this country. I'm not saying you, but our politicians are going along with it. The media. It's all right showing it. Oh, look at what's happening. If they are showing it. But they're doing nothing about it. They're doing nothing about it. Absolutely nothing about it. And that's the problem with Trump. He went in, he got the POTUS on the campaign trail of peace. He's going to bring peace and everything else. Yet he's still arming Ukraine and Israel. He's only got to say to Ukraine, okay, no more intel, no more bombs, no more money. That's it with us. Finished. That's all he's got to say. That'll stop that within weeks. Not even weeks. Yet they're still, so why are they still giving them arms? Because it's money coming back to America through the washing machine. The more arms you give, the more money they have to pay. The more money going into them, it's coming back out again to them. That's why I asked. I'd love Trump to ask for the bank account of Joe Biden before and after Ukraine. If you know what I mean. And Hunter Biden. Lots of skullduggery. Honest to God, lots of skullduggery going on. And it's wrong. It's costing people's lives. It's costing them lives. But try and have a look at that in Hindustan Times. Brilliant, you know. It just gives you this is what's happening. That's who I watch. And obviously streams. There's a fella named Colonel Daniel Davis. He's got a stream. Colonel Daniel Davis. Have a look at him. Ex-US Army, obviously. Have a look at him. He's got a crack in there. And he comes out with it. These people are not so. One of the greatest intellects today is a fellow by the name of Professor Sachs. And he's a Jew. Sachs. He's fantastic. And I see the way he talks about Ukraine and Israel. Unbelievable. Professor Sachs. And another fella there, another intellect by the name of Meschmeyer. Professor Meschmeyer. So they're not all like, it's not like me talking about them. These are highly respected intellects. You've got a Colonel McGregor. He's incredible, McGregor. Want to hear about him? Well, hear him. You want to hear two intel lads? You know, men there. Larry Johnson, former CIA. Another former CIA intel is Ray McGovern. You want to hear them? And it's not propaganda. It's just plain truth. That's what I mentioned, didn't I, before about Boris Johnson when he went over and under the orders of Joe Biden for them to stop signing for peace. There would have been 1 million Ukrainians still alive today, young Ukrainians. They would have had all the land intact. With that Istanbul 2022, April 2022 peace deal. And all the propaganda that was coming out with the Ukrainian army pushing back out of Kiev, the Russian army, because they were on the outskirts. This is where this Busha was, or Busha. And it wasn't like that. Because the Russians said, Putin said, okay, we'll pull away from Kiev. Get this done. This was one of the agreements, and they left. They left days before that was going to be signed. So they left Kiev. But they raised, especially a fellow named General Milley, the American general. Remember him? And he said the Russian army were thrown out by the Ukrainians, you know, the Ukrainian from Kiev. And he made that up. And it wasn't, and it just stuck like that. Oh, the Ukrainians, it wasn't like that at all. But getting back to Boris Johnson, what he said. And he said it's the Azovs that have, it was them. He's trying to backtrack what he said because everybody's saying he's got blood on his hands for stopping that. And it's finally hit him. It's finally hit him where he's gone like that. This is bad on me. And he came out and this is what he said. It's a load of bollocks by him, by the way. But what you've got is this. Do you remember? It was only last year. Only last year. So you see what he's saying now. Oh, it was the Azovs who were, but he never said Azovs. He said the extreme ultra-right. That's what he said. They were behind and telling Zelensky not to sign it. That's what he came out and said a few weeks ago. But one thing, if I was being the reporter, if I was being the journalist as he's talking, I would have just said, well, why did you fucking invite them over to Parliament, showing their flag. Does anybody remember that? I do. You remember the soldiers in Parliament with their flag? Because as I just said, if you knew that, then why did you invite them over? If you knew that it was the Azovs who had got the gun behind his head, forcing them not to sign. So why did you invite them over? On British soil, on British politics, at British Parliament. Why did you invite them? No one asks questions, nobody. I'm just going to say this, and I don't want any follow-ups on this, what I'm going to say, please. It's like Arnie Slot's press conferences. No one asks him a serious question about next season, like what we need. No one asks them that. No one says, listen, there's Robbo, he's finished. We definitely need a left back. We definitely need another striker or two. We definitely need a centre back, a left-sided centre back. We definitely need a defensive midfielder, a number 6. We need them. Is there any of them coming in? Can you confirm that they are being bought? Are they going to put their hands in their pockets? The owners of this football club, this great football club. It's like that. They don't fucking ask the questions. The journalists, to the likes of Boris Johnson, to the likes of, I never watched that stupid, I haven't watched that for years, that question time. The black and white boy. I'm more convinced they are all actors with a script. Zelensky, even Trump has a star in Hollywood. Well, he hasn't got a star in Hollywood Boulevard. But that Gal Gadot hasn't she? Why has she got it? You've got to be at least 20 years into the business. And even Wonder Woman was a flop that she made. It was a massive flop. And even people at the time were saying she's an awful actress. Even today, yet she's got a star. Why? She's an Israeli. She was in the IDF. A soldier in the IDF. That's why they put her name down. Who owns Hollywood? Just leave it at that with that one. Edward, what do you think of on GN News? They're less woke. I don't know. I don't watch it, Edward. Honestly, GN News. I just don't watch it. I don't watch that James O'Brien. Used to watch him, before this SMO. And he was a bit like controversial, He had to go with people. He wouldn't let any someone phoning in get a word in edgeways. Oh, yeah. Then just shout at them more or less. And then when he went on about Putin, I just said, oh. Now this is straight after the SMO started. I went, whoa, hang on a minute, don't you know about 2000? And so he followed, he's one of them who followed the narrative and keeps following it apparently. I don't know whether he does or not, whether he's changed his mind. People are terrified to lose their jobs. That's what it is. So you go along with the narrative. TV news. I don't know. I haven't followed it. I haven't followed it. If that James O'Brien's one, that lot, no. I always remember as well. I went, oh, is it that Brewer one? That, I forget her name. She's got a double barrel name. Horrible. Horrible. And a girl named Isabella Oakeshott. Isabella Oakeshott. You ever heard of her? She's a rat, eh? I remember some Liberal MP who's a leader, I forget his name. And he got pulled for speeding or going through a red light or so, just something stupid like that. And he said to his wife, this Liberal MP, "Do us a favour, say that it was you." So she said, "All right." So she said that it was me that he went through. So she got fined or whatever. Know what I mean? And she was telling her friend, who's a journalist, Isabella Oakeshott. And guess what Isabella Oakeshott did? She printed it in her newspaper. And that destroyed this, I forget his name. That destroyed him. He was a leader of the Liberals. He was one of the top fellas. Destroyed him. And it destroyed the marriage as well. They've been married for years. Destroyed them. That's what she's like. Isabella Oakeshott. Listen to her name. She's only young. Isabella Oakeshott. How's your elbow, Francolino? It's so. I'm always in pain, to be honest. It's less pain. Edward says, "No, I'm still in pain, not less pain." I'm sorry, I was just reading something there. Less. Edward says, "I've heard of Dan Wooten. He's less woke on you." Yeah, I've seen him actually. Dan Wooten. That thunderstorm I had struck me in the head, knocked me out. Devil. But that's the way it is. That's the way everything is. And as I mentioned about this country and Starmer and Macron, he wants to send troops over to Ukraine. And Macron, boots on the ground. You've only got to put one boot on the ground. You're at war with Russia. And, people say, "Oh, we've got air nukes as well, Have we? You've got to fucking ask the President of the United States if we can press the button. And if they say no, we're fucked because they've got the codes." Liverpool is one of the blackest spots in Europe. Did you know that? Liverpool. If there's a nuclear attack. And it has been for years. Why? Because all this uranium and plutonium and everything else comes into our country. Did you know that? Liverpool. We'd be it right away. And they've got the Russians have a missile or a bomb or whatever you call it, I don't know. And it's called the Orishnik. Orishnik. It's not nuclear, but it's a power. It's an incredible thing. It's an incredible thing. It doesn't just go and blow up. You know, it's not one of them and then blows up. What this does, it goes in the ground. See, this is the missile. It goes into the ground and goes in and comes under and then explodes here and goes up. It's incredible. And it's not nuclear. That'd do us. If they sent over the Orishnik here, it's ballistic as well. We've got nothing to shoot it down with. Boom, bang, gone. Liverpool a bit, just got. The missiles they have is incredible. Remember when they were coming out, the Western press saying that the Russians have nothing. They've got nothing. They're running out of men. They're running out of men, they said. They're running out of arms, they said. There's a General Cavoli in America, and he was coming out with all that only last year. They're finished. They've got no men, they've lost whatever. That's what they were saying. That's what they were saying. This Cavoli. They're finished. The only decent thing is shovels. Now he's just come out yesterday and said they're the strongest army. The amount of weapons they're making daily and the whole of the north, west, not the northwest, the western countries couldn't make what they were doing. The whole of them, that includes America, what they're churning out every single day. And now, only a few months ago, he was saying, von der Leyen, remember? What she was saying, with all these sanctions, just at the beginning, with all the sanctions, their economy will collapse. Putin will be finished. Backfired. Thriving. 80% of the Russian public love Putin. Love him. So it was all a propaganda against Putin, and they're expecting that the Russian ordinary people will. See, people have their own minds without being compromised, shall we say. You have your own mind. I have my own mind. You know, this Starmer came in. Starmer, for example, he came in. He won by a landslide. So even if you go back to Liz Truss, and she wasn't picked by you, me, or anybody else, she was picked by the Conservative Party. Like Rishi Sunak was picked by their parties, all these, after Cameron resigned. They were being picked, not by the people. All these Theresa May. She was picked to lead, but she defeated Corbyn, didn't she? But Liz Truss, woeful. Woeful. And she said she pressed the button. She was asking it, you know, it was a live debate. You know. Would you press the button? Yeah. Right away. No hesitate. Yeah. She said. The shortest living Prime Minister she was. And then you come up to, you know, everybody was saying, what an awful person, what an awful Prime Minister. That's why she just went, gone. Then Starmer comes in. And he's wasted it. He's worse. No one could have been worse than this Truss. I said it at the time. No one could be as worse as this one. And this fella's come in. He wasn't a clue. He hasn't a clue. And he was a top lawyer. You'd think they would have a bit of a clue. Unless it's all lies. He works for the neocons. He works for the deep state. You've got BlackRock. He invited BlackRock into this country. They own the country now. BlackRock, the Americans. The WEF, World Economic Forum. And this is Starmer. While kids are going to school without a breakfast. I know. I'm in the education, well, I'm not now, but I do know teachers. And they've told me. We actually buy, they buy, like, you know, like biscuits and that, and little drinks for the kids who haven't had a breakfast. All right, it's full of sugar, you know, with the biscuits and whatever, but at least it gives them energy. And the drinks as well, the soft drinks. It's shocking. When I was a little infant going to school, I remember getting milk. Remember? You always had milk. Now kids are going to school without a breakfast. How many of you went to school without a breakfast? How many of you? And this fella is allowing it while he goes, listen, I'm not giving that to you. I'll keep it back and I give it to him. Who's in? Zelensky. For a war that's going to be lost anyway. So Louise was Labour. She would be fuming with them, of course. Of course she would. Poor Louise. Of course she would. Do you think she'd let Austin go to school without a breakfast? Do you think you'd let Austin go to school without a breakfast? But if you're in such a predicament, you'd have to. And this is the way some people are. 5.4 million of them. And when they go to school, they come home. They don't have a tea or anything. I know you Southerners call it dinner. We call it our tea. Don't we? Anfield Road. Going home for me tea. Barry Elders, even in Frank, if we sent troops to Ukraine, it would be our Vietnam. Yeah. I was talking about colour revolutions. I'll get back to that. Just bear with me on this. It's only what you said, Barry. Our Vietnam. historically, we had a sort of Vietnam in Aden. Aden. Do you ever remember Aden? Well, you mightn't. I do. And Yemen. The Yemen. Think about it. The Yemen's got nothing, and we've been there. The Americans are bombing it. It's a nothing country. I'm not saying it's a nothing country. Don't get me wrong. It's a country. It's a sovereign country. And they've got an army called the Houthis. And they're feeling sorry for the people in Gaza. And yet ships are coming in with their big guns and everything else for arms, weapons, bombs to Israel. And they're trying to stop it. They're saying, no, you're not getting through. This is wrong. And this is why they're there. This is what the Houthis are doing. And they're getting bombed for it. Missiles by dirty, great, big battleships of the US Navy. But Aden was our Vietnam. There's been loads. Islands. You've only got to look at islands. I don't want to get into that, but you've only got to look at Ireland, what we were doing in Ireland. Look at that bloody fucking Sunday. Shooting at how many people? Was it 11 or 13? Including the priest. Dead. By the paratroopers. British paratroopers. That went on for years. That went on from 1969. That was our Vietnam, which went on longer than Vietnam, by the way. Went on from 69 until, I think, was it 98 under Blair. And he finally brought peace. Remember when Thatcher had Jerry Adams, she banned him from talking. It was comical. I even said, oh, what's the use of that? She banned him from talking. Yet you see him talking with an actor's voice. It wasn't his voice. What patheticness is that? That's what we're like. Sorry, Frankie, you had to nip off for a late dinner. Good. Last been for dinner with Trump and Zelensky. Zelensky. Edward says the British Army is tiny. We've got nothing. I remember we had two, I think we've still got them, two aircraft carriers built. And we had no planes for them. And Cameron was Prime Minister. And he asked the French, can we borrow your planes? They went, yeah, all right. So he lent us planes for the aircraft carriers. And when Brexit came, they asked for them back and we had to give them back. It's pathetic. The whole of Europe. I love Europe for culture and history. But it's been exposed as one fucking big phone politically. The politics. I'm being honest, like I'm an honest person. I was an avid Remainer. I wanted to remain European. But whether Brexit or not, still European. I was at Aberdeen. Everything's being exposed about Brussels. Everything. It's all blew up. It all came out into the open. The likes of that von der Leyen. Ursula von der Leyen. What a dreadful person. What a dreadful person. And she's just sitting back. She's allowing everything about Ukraine. She's sitting back and allowing everything about Israel. Now you've got, believe it or not, German, they had to have an army. They had to, after the Wales War II. So they've got an army. Now the Lithuanians are being invited. The German army is being invited over there. What's America said? What has Britain said? And France, they were the main people in Berlin. Because you had a British corridor, you had a French corridor, and also Checkpoint Charlie, the Americans. Have they come out and said, no, this is it? Because they said you'll never fucking go into another country ever again. You will never do it. Has anybody come out and said anything about the German army going into it? There was murder over the leopards going into Ukraine. The German leopard, they've all been blown up anyway, useless. Every weapon that's been going into Ukraine is useless against what the Russians have. They're just being blown up left, right, and centre. And that's why I said ages ago, Trump can stop this like that within a matter of weeks. If he just says no more intel, no more intel, no more weapons, no more money. That's it, you're gone, you're finished. To Zelensky. That's all he's got to say. Be over. But again, it's corruption. The more money, the more weapons going into Ukraine, the more for these military complexes, the more money going into them, the more money's going into their Congress pockets, congressmen, that is, and senators, and presidents. I'm not saying Trump needs the money. That's why I said I'd love Trump to demand to see Biden's bank book and his family's, by the way. We always thought that this PPE here, the likes of Matt Hancock and the rest of them that moan, they made millions. That was brazen, that was open. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see the Biden bank books, how much they made. I'd love to see, do you know what, if that Zelensky's captured, if he's still alive, if he's captured and put on trial, it'll come out how much he's got. America should have him, never mind the Russians, America should have him. We want our money back, you. But all the tariffs, it's going to destroy Europe, and especially with the 5% more for NATO, to fund NATO. NATO's a business now. It's not like a fucking an alliance to keep people safe. As Russ is saying, we've got to build a big army and von der Leyen. What for? Russia not going to invade. What the fucking hell do they want to invade us for? They've got everything. They've got everything. Look, if I had everything, I need modern technology, everything. Young black and white boy mentions a Ferrari. If I had a Ferrari and a palatial place and a good woman on my arm, if you know what I mean. And someone who lived up the road, who lived in a run-down place that would be getting demolished. And he had a car in the driveway with the tyres flat, no MOT, no nothing, wouldn't even start. Why would I want that house? Run-down house that was falling to bits. And the car that wouldn't even start with flat tyres. Out-of-date car. Never even got an MOT. Wouldn't even get one. Why would I want that? That's what I mean about Russia. They've got everything. It's the richest for everything. And I'm talking from diamonds to gold to silver to mineral. Everything they've got. Including the food. They feed the world. Believe it or not. So why would they? Why would they want to go there? It's fucking Europe. Why? The Russian people, they go on holiday. I've met Russian people in Italy. Met them. So nothing to me. So nothing to me. They go on holiday, they go everywhere. You know, remember people were saying, oh, I didn't think they could come out of Russia. They go everywhere. Before all this SMO, then they got sanctioned, then, you know, they can't fly anywhere. But Trump's putting pay to that. That's the sanctions that they threw on Russia. If I wanted to go to Russia, say like I wanted to go to, say St. Petersburg or whatever, say I wanted to go to Crimea or then because it's the Russian Federation now. It's always been the Crimean War and that. Never fought Ukrainians in the Crimean War, did we? Because there was no fucking Ukraine. Anyway. As Edward says, the British Army is tiny, very tiny. We've got no navy, and there's that Debbie Starmer wanting to go to the Black Sea to confront Russia. They've got one of the greatest nuclear naval things. Believable. Does he know anything? I remember the milk to Frank. Yeah, cartons. But I got the little bottles. I'm older than you. You and posh, you say. As when I left the little infants, you got the cartons. Because we used to break the glass bottles in nursery. Yeah, but you don't get that now, do you? I don't know. Barry Aldridge. I'm sorry about keeping you off there and me prattling on. I'm sorry. Should have. So did I, Frank. Paper straws that went flat when they got wet with the milk. But yeah. At the top. And you like that, aren't you? And he's just. Yeah, great that, Barry. They're great, aren't they, memories, you know, beautiful memories when we were kids. Oh, fuck, I haven't got this. Oh, minor. Trump and Israel hands are itching to attack Iran. Yes. And this is what Mark Rutte was saying, as I mentioned before, when he pointed out the axis of evil, what Biden came out with, was North Korea, Iran, China, Russia. That's the axis of evil. And he mentioned all that. Mark Rutte yesterday or today. And it's shocking. What's Iran done to me? What's Russia's done to me? What's Russia done? What's North Korea? What's Xi Jinping's done to me? China? Sweet and sour. Sweet and sour sauce. That's all. Now, the Italian-Russian Treaty on Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Will Russia intervene? If so, when then World War III is not far behind. I think I've read that wrong. Trump and Israel, hands are itching to attack Iran. You're right. Now the Iranians, I thought you said the Italian. I haven't got reading glasses. I'm sorry. Now the Iranian-Russian Treaty on Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Well, that could be, to be honest. And Trump knows this, by the way. But I think Trump's got more. I think he's got more, shall I say, sense, dare I say, sense than Biden's administration had. He doesn't want to. He can't afford a third world war because it'll be the end. It'll be the end of Earth, be the end of mankind as we know it. So at least, that's in my opinion. I think he's got more sense. But we were on the precipice of World War III just last year or the year before. On the precipice. Last year it was. With Biden, under Biden. And Blinken. Horrible. It's frightening. And Barry says, and the school dinners were good for the most part. Cottage pie, yeah. Irish shit, yeah. Corned beef hash, yeah. Really good. Do you ever remember the puddings? I always remember this pudding. It was like a cake, a flat thing, with coconut on the top and jam in the middle and custard. I remember that. But yeah, the cottage pie and the Irish stew and corned beef. Great the school dinners. I know it never always went for school dinners. I used to go home and go to Chip. I always remember going to Chippy, and I was only a little mad kid. I was sent to the Chippy. This is a school time, and I met my mates, and we were playing football. And when I went to Chippy and came back, I got battered. I had to go back to school. I was late playing football. And all the chips went to waste. Was never sent again, which was all right. IBR, evening, Don Franco, how are you doing? Bene grazie, amico mio. Bene grazie. Io bene grazie. The unfair rule. Russians to go to Egypt as well. Yeah. Can I ask you something? Do you know all the Christians in Gaza, not in Gaza, Syria, I'm sorry, in Syria, are being slaughtered. You know that, don't you? They're being slaughtered by this Al-Jawani, that fella, and his gangs. Slaughtered Christians. And you've got the earliest Christians, I forget what they're called, the earliest of Christians, and they're all being slaughtered. Who's saving them? I want to know who's saving them. Let me know. The all night, look, the Anfield goes, yeah, that's for you. And he gives loads back. And Barry says, I think, we have really been lucky to have grown up in what I would call some of the best years, Frank. Yeah. See, the 50s was the most, I know it sounds daft, what I'm going to say, but it is true. It was the most peaceful decade, albeit you had the likes of the Suez Crisis and the Cold War. Yeah, it was the most, it was the Ovaltine, wasn't it, decade? The Ovaltine. Remember, we are the Ovaltine, little girls and boys. It was the most. And I always remember that, even now, thinking, sitting in school as an infant or a junior and seeing, we always had a calendar on it was a big cupboard. It was a big cupboard, and there was a calendar, with all the like pencils in and whatever. And the calendar, and it's had like a street scene, where, typical 50s drawings. Looking down the street, or I'll never forget, like, what month was it? It was July. It was July, and we were coming up for our summer holidays, and the calendar, they had the picture of July, and you had these beautiful trees. You had a road, going the windy road, with hedgerows and beautiful green fields and a couple of beautiful full bloom trees and a little cottage at the end of this road. Fantastic. Here you go. Wonderful memories. Thank you, Barry, for that. You brought back some really love. IBR. A Wales war serves the purpose of forcing a global reset and depopulation program, hence why they put a phoenix burn in the globe. Yeah. In the 2012 Olympic ceremony. Says the IBR. Well, like I said, there's a famous, I don't know whether it's biblical or what, and you see, I don't know whether it's God or Christ, or I don't know, and he's sitting there like that, like in the sky, and he's sitting there, with his robes on, and he's sitting on like a cloud, and there's this thing around him, but you see that burn. As with the Russian, saving the, you've got them all into their air base. But now the Russians have said that we've had enough of you lot, and they've taken more territory. As we know today, they've taken loads of territory. And they're protecting, feeding, clothing, everything. These Christians. There was 10,000 at first. I don't know how many there are now. But I seen footage of executions by those horrible people and these poor people. The Anfield. Frankie, what's your opinion on the rise of Eritreans heading north into European countries? Are the asylum seekers, is there a war, or is it an opportunistic movement? In London, 65% of social housing for them. I seen something on, someone asked me, said, have a look at this on Facebook. As I said, I very rarely use Facebook anymore. And I'm only on it because of like my history showing and even this. For people to have a look. And my football pods. But you'll never see me going on and giving like all these big comments out. Don't do that no more. So what do I think of that? Well, someone asked me, they said, have a look at this. And it was London Bridge, by Parliament there. And there was all these Muslims doing this. And I'm talking, all men, bare chested doing this and whatever. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't want to read it, to be honest. And you just see people just looking. And I'm talking. I don't know whether it was thousands or about hundreds of them or whatever. Look, I know a certain person who's been on a housing list. She's got 3 kids, one's left now, On a housing list, she's living with her mother. There and her fella broke up and she just went back to her mother. And she went for a house. She had three of them were at home then. As I said, one of them left now. And she went and she said she was sitting in this housing place or whatever it is. And she went and they said, no, we're awfully sorry. There's nothing in yet. There's nothing at all. So she said, okay. She said, don't forget, I'm living with my mother and I need my own place. Okay. So anyway, she came out, she just walking home, just going home down the street. And this young fella came, he said, excuse me. And he said, did you notice people sitting over onto the left of you? She said, yeah. He said, well, they're asylum seekers and they're all top priority. Not just here, but all over the country. And she said, well, what about the likes of me and other people like me? You just, as long they look at it as you've got a roof over your head, these people haven't. So they're priority over you. And that was, she'd been on the housing list. She said, I'll have to go up. She went on the housing list. She's been on it for 7 years. 7 years. Think about it. 65% of social housing for them. You've only, look, I've always said this, and you've heard me saying it, boys and girls. This was the big plan of America. And it goes back to George Bush Sr. Don't forget he was as a CIA, you know. And have you seen the flags? The flag that I'm sorry about this. It's just this thing on me. It goes back to like even today. It mentions about George Bush. George Bush was head of the CIA, and what they're saying now about Putin, oh, he was ex-KGB. So what? Do you see what I mean? They just leave about Bush was all right because he was CIA. One of the most corrupt agencies, and our agency, by the way. We've got, people think with James Bond, that we're all great. Never, we're great. James Bond. We're horrible. Or the MI6, MI5. Dirty tricks. They blew up Nord Stream along with the Yanks. They blew it up. No one else. And the Germans allowed it. That's how bad Germany are now. They allowed it. Biden was blatant. And Scholz stands next to him. And Scholz said nothing. And they said, we've got means. He said, we've got means to blow it up. He never said blow it up. We've got means to stop Nord Stream. And someone asked him in a press conference, is the leader of a sovereign Germany, supposed to be sovereign state? What do you mean you've got means? Why didn't he come out and say, what means do you have to stop Nord Stream that replenishes everything in Germany? Our industry relies on Nord Stream. It relies on Nord Stream, the energy, to keep our industry going because it's so cheap. Their industries now are leaving over to go to America, of all places. Lots of. The Anfield. Isn't it about time we elected a Trump type to close our borders? One thing that can be said about him is he's stuck to his principles. He's hard to phantom. I was made up that he got it. Because he said, he went on the campaign of peace. I said, get him in. He'll sort this. And I remember Myra saying to me, do you think he'll stop it in 24 hours? I said, he can stop it within weeks by not supplying Ukraine with arms and anything, and just saying to the EU, behave your fucking selves. Sorry to swear, Myra. Behave yourselves. Don't be giving them any arms. This has got to stop. And it will just stop like that. But I think now, there's no way it's going to stop it. I'm not saying foreseeable future. I tell you when it will stop. I'm predicting this. Is when Russia will take Odessa, because Odessa is Russian. Catherine the Great founded it. It's Russian, just like Crimea is, the Crimean War. Who did we fight? It's the Russians. So this is what. And you'll have Trump. And what did he do? He endorsed Lindsay, one of the biggest neocons in America, who's a terrible Russophobe. He hates Russia. He hates Russia. Why? What the fuck have they done to him? I don't understand why people hate Russia. I just don't. I don't hate Greenlandians. Well, why would I want to hate fucking Greenlandians? You know what I mean? Why would I want to hate the French or the Spanish or the Portuguese or the Italian? Why would I want to hate them? They've done nothing to me. They've done nothing to our country. Fucking hell, when was the last time we would invade the fucking Vikings and the Saxons? So we should hate the Germans. And the Normans, we should hate the French. Especially the Romans. We should hate the Romans, the Italians. Because they only, you know, as John Cleese said, what have the Romans ever done for us? Think about that. It's very sad what the country is reduced to. Yeah, I am. I'm shocked at our own area, so am I. Like the Cockneys, let's hope us Scousers do not get phased. We are, you know. We are Anfield. We are, honestly. Remember, we were getting phased out in the 80s. And it was football that kept us together, believe it or not. I know it sounds condescending, you know, for football, but we and football like that. And that saved us from apathy during the 80s under a Thatcher government. She hated us. She hated Liverpool. What did we ever do to her? It's just like, what's Russia ever done to us? What's the Chinese ever done to us? What's an Iranian? Iran? What have they ever done to us? What's a North Korean ever done to us? I'm what you call a host, you know, university. And I've only ever had one person, and that was a South Korean. She was only a little tiny thing. I said, yeah, I'll put her up. So anyway, I put her up for, it's only here 2 nights. And I brought her around the city, showing her Liverpool. She couldn't believe it. Do you know what? I think she's dead, you know, because she'd been all around Europe. She'd been here, she'd been to London, and she said how Liverpool is so different to London. I said, why? Why is it so different? And she more or less told me then, you know, what you're saying. Anfield. And she said, but it's different, is it? I said, yeah. So we're more pleasant. And she went, as she made up, and she said, I'm making me way. She was itching all over the world. As I said, she'd been all over Europe. She was engaged to this fella. She was getting married, and you know, at South Korea. Pretty little thing she was as well. And she said, he finished with me a few months ago. I said, oh, why? She said, because he couldn't. I've been away. I said, how long have you been away? She said, 4 years. I said, 4 years? So you're going back home? She said, no, I'm going to do Africa now. I said, you've got to be careful, you know. She was going around the the East Coast first, right around. She was going right to the tip. I said, Africa's a huge continent. And she said, well, I might just cross. Rather than getting to South Africa, I might just have to cross midway and then go up there towards the Middle East. She said, I'll keep in touch with you. I said, will you? She said, yeah. She had a Korean name, but she also had like a European name, like Josephine or whatever. That's what, I forget her name now. I forget her name, unfortunately. But I'd like Kim Young as her last name. Say her name was Joan, for example, just saying. Or Margaret Kim Young. See what I mean? That's what her name was. Wasn't a name like, but just made it. And I haven't heard from her. And she was keeping in touch, Then all of a sudden, nothing. I just hope she's all right. The Anfield. Worst thing to happen in history was Britain losing the USA. Do you know what? The likes of Myra and myself, we see each other on, we just see the comments on other things. And here's what I said on one of the comments, and it was deleted, it never got put on it. It was wrong. And all I just said was, if there be no America, there'd be no wars. And it was deleted. And I was right. Then on another one, I said, if Israel didn't exist, there'd be no war, Middle Eastern wars. Now, I know I'm right on both. Middle East would be all living in peace. Palestinians would be living in peace. They'd have their own land instead of Balfour going over and saying, yeah, taking the lands off Palestine. Yeah, you can have that, Israel. We'll call this Israel, the new Judea. We are second-class citizens in our own country, and it will be far worse once we'll be. I didn't know that there were. Is it 48 Sharia law courts throughout the country? I didn't know. Think about that. Think about the laws. Their laws. Sharia laws. Think about it. And that could apply to you or me, like blasphemy and all this. And you'd be punished by Sharia law. What do you do? What do you get for there? Just today, it was released that Trump had done more deals in 3 months with the countries to benefit the USA than the entire Biden in office. Yeah. In signing off, Biden signing office. Yeah. Right there, right. This is why he wants to open up. He's got that Witkoff. And one of the biggest Russian haters is Lindsey Graham. He hates Russians. Russia, he hates them. He hates Russia and he hates the Russians. And Biden went, I want you to sit in with this Dmitry and with, negotiating with Kov. Now, why has he done that? Why has he done it with this most hateful person of Russia? Why has he got him sitting in the meetings? Lindsey Graham. There's something behind Trump. Something behind him. Which, I think there's something behind it. Why he told Lindsey Graham to go and sit in. Maybe to get a different perspective than what he's grown up to hate about these Russians. I went shopping today with our Francine, and I said, yeah, and I put Russia on. I said, yeah, have a look at that. And she said, isn't it beautiful, Russia, Moscow? And she said, isn't it so clean? I said, yeah. It's funny, like watching that, and there was fellas working in the building. This shot should have seen the streets, absolutely, full of these shops, beautiful buildings. I love architecture, as you know. And you see them working, and they've got a skip in like a big doorway. They've got a skip there. And this fella, you see him, and he must be like on a sort of a break. One of the workers, and he's standing there. The camera's this fella's just walking up, the camera. And you see him, and he's eating something, like a Mars bar or something, whatever it is. And he gets the paper, genuine, gets the paper, he's got it in his hand, and he walks over. He doesn't walk over to the skip. He walks over to a bin and puts it in, the paper. That's what I like. It's so clean. Moscow. It's the most. No graffitis on the wall. And do you know what was sad though? You had the likes of Prada. You had Dior, Christian Dior. You have all these, Versace. All the branded names. The shops shut because of the bloody sanctions. But Trump, he's going to send them all back here. Yeah. To the American firms. Yeah, I get over there. Underlying what? And the Anfield. One thing that it may affect Europe is Trump taking aid from African states. Not that it's a bad thing, but it will encourage those African countries to drive north. I don't know. Well, they're doing it now anyway. As I mentioned before, that was a big plan to destabilize the Middle East so that there'd be, refugees, asylum seekers and everything crossing over into Europe, and it succeeded because Europe is saturated with refugees, saturated. And the ordinary people didn't mind, okay, welcome them. But it's like, I can give you an analogy. It's like giving someone a lift. And the person, to work, and the person goes, you've got a car, just an ordinary car, everyday car. And the fellow went like that, listen, can you take me, mate, as well? Yeah, all right, mate, yeah, jump in. And you drive to work. The next day, you're picking them up again, you bring them home, you pick them up. And that mate, the second fella who got it said, listen, a mate of mine needs a lift. And Liz makes her mind, okay, I can. So you've got like your car full, and all of a sudden, others are saying, hey, how can I get, and all squeezing in. And you just say, listen, there's too many. I'm awfully sorry. I just want to go back to the two. I'm sorry, boys. Do you see what I mean? And that's what it's like. There's a place called Lampedusa. I'd like to go to Lampedusa, actually. It's an Italian island. And they were getting all the boat people. And they just said, we've had enough of this. Because what they were doing, the Italian water people, they were going and picking them up, but they weren't bringing them to the mainland. They were bringing them to Lampedusa. And they were saying, we're fed up with this because of thousands. And it's only a small island, all right? So it's only what you said, yeah? Like saturation. The Anfield, she hated the North, and us in particular, this is her touch. Me dad and yourself will never forget them times, no. Our city and people were treated like we were not citizens of their country. They created the divide. Ethel. Yes. This is why you've got a flag, a banner. I don't know whether it's been banned, I'm talking about Anfield, and it says the Republic of Liverpool. Scouse, not English. You see what I mean? The Republic of Liverpool, one banner, and another banner. And it's only like what you said, Anfield, like me and your dad and thousands of others who were neglected. I'm lucky. I'm being honest, I'm lucky. But I understand the apathy that was setting into Liverpool. Liverpool is a fantastic place. It's a beautiful place. I'm so proud of Liverpool. I'm so proud of it. The architecture, the history of it is incredible. Second to none. Second to none. What we did for the world. What we did. The first radio broadcast on the planet. The first X-ray. The first botanical gardens. The first railway system, passenger railway system in the entire world. The first dock system in the world. Think about that. What we gave the world. The first zoological gardens in the world. Zoo. A zoo, 1831. The Botanical Gardens was in 1801. Even, it surprised you. Even, the police, the walkie-talkies in the cars. Us. First hospital radio. Us. And you know what? Like when I finish this, I should have mentioned. And I always forget things. When it comes to me, why did I mention that? It just shows you. Something's just come up, you can't see it. And it's got, you're being tracked. Think about it. Remember when I said I'll get banned? You couldn't see it, I could. Edward. See you tomorrow, Frank and Shell. Oh, Edward, see you. Thank you for joining me. And the rest of the chatters. Thank you so much. It's lovely. Lovely man. The Anfield. Frankie, being a historian as you are, those that sadden you that modern buildings are not. Oh. Do you know what? I really abhor. I hate the word. I hate using the word hate, honestly. And I hate the word ugly as well. And those things down by the pier head, or on the pier head, not by the pier head, on the pier head, like that Liverpool history building. That's shocking. It might be okay, in a different place. Smash it out, put it in a different place. The black granite building, okay, put it in a different place. Even the Everton grounds should have just moved it up. Should have just moved it up. And we would just still had our World Heritage status because UNESCO warned about that particular. Don't forget, I was the historical consultant for them, for Grosvenor. And that museum, UNESCO said, don't do it. They warned us once, we built it. The Black Granite building, they said, don't do it. Because they were threatening to take away World Heritage status, which is prestigious. Prestigious. But they built them. They built them. And I think they're horrible. Build them somewhere else. And then, because what was planned, imagine this. Imagine, please imagine. I've seen the plans. It was fantastic. It's fantastic. Because when we were supposed to have a Millennium Building, we're the only city without a Millennium Building. The only major city in the whole of the country without a Millennium Building. So as they decided to build some right next to the Port of Liverpool, and there was this thing called the Wave. I've mentioned it before. But anyway, forget that now. That wasn't built. Because of the cheapskate council. Right, so forget that. Now, but what they wanted in place, these others, instead of that museum thing, and those black granite buildings, was a garden. I know it sounds mad, but I should have seen it. It was out of this world. I seen the plan. I said, are we going to build that? He said, yeah. It's fantastic. I said, well, what about those granite buildings they're not going to be built? And it was some fella who worked for I always get mixed up with these Mersey Travel or Arriva or what, Merseyside. Used to have the thing. I used to go for a little bit of lunch down in the Hatton Garden. Great little place, for Mersey, like transport. So they moved from there, and that fella got paid loads. He was head of it. Yeah, so they had to build a black granite fucking thing. And that garden, it would have been, you should have seen it. It's hard for me to explain. But it was fantastic. And it was going to have, like a smaller version, don't get me wrong, two smaller versions of the Palm House and the Isla Gladstone. Smaller versions, but the park in front. In between the two of them. Imagine that. And it was for all the, not the ferries, the liners coming in. For the people, if they're waiting for any, the ships to come in or whatever. Or getting disembarking and going around the town and, going into just relaxing these gardens. This garden sort of thing. It would have been massive. And that would have been between the Port of Liverpool building and the Albert Dock. Palm trees and everything, If you ever remember the Garden Festival, I loved that. Beautiful gardens from all over the world. I always remember the Canadian pine. Oh, wow, fantastic. The Japanese garden, everything, China, every conceivable garden from countries were there. And this is what this was going to be like at the pier head. But look what we've got instead. So you're right. Oh, some of the buildings that have been knocked down's broken me. The Anfield. They hate us for saying Scouse, not English, but it isn't exactly what the South has done to the North. They get all the infrastructure, they get all the jobs, they control powers and distribution. When I just said I was, you're spot on there, by the way. When I said I was the historical consultant, I always remember that story. And he said, jobs for the 40 to 60,000 jobs for our lands. I'd never seen anyone from Liverpool until one day I bumped into an old mate of mine who I used to go to match with. And he was working down there. He's always worked on the building. James Allen. I went, what are you doing? He said, what are you doing in a suit and a tie? I was walking around with the main man, So what are you doing? And I said, I'll behave yourself or I'll get you the sack. Because he told me what he was doing. He said, there's fucking no one here, Frank. There's no one. No Scousers. All contract workers. Never forget that. So I make stories about loads of Scousers are getting a job. He said, I'm lucky to get this. Only through a mate of mine. Yep. They control powers and distribution. You've hit the nail on the head. The Anfield Road. They are their own place. So why can't we? Love Liverpool. I'll never leave this great city. Best people, best football team, best fight. Thank you. So true, Frankie, on their modern defacings of our great city. I could tell you what they pulled down here. Disgusting. On my history show, I'll get Jason to put up again. I can't do it again. Just one building, 2 buildings I'll ask him to put up. I won't tell you now. Liverpool are not playing next Wednesday, are they? If they are, but I'll be having a history show during the week. Anyway. the history shows I'm putting on Wednesdays. And I'll show you 2 buildings. No, 3 buildings that came down. And I'm talking, I'm not talking like 100 years ago or anything like that. They pulled them down. I'm talking about the 70s. I'm talking about the 80s. These buildings. And there's one other. Imagine pulling down. I'll give you an example. Imagine pulling down the Lyceum at the bottom of Bull Street. Imagine that. These buildings are in the same milk as those. Honestly. I just well know them. I go mad over them. I'm just made up that I'm one of the few who saved the White Mansion House. Me. And the Collegiate up in Shore Street. And the Lyceum. Couldn't see. I know. And the unfair. It's always the same with these regeneration projects. It's always to stand in front of the cities. True. Sorry. It's always to stand in front of the city's true architectural feats. New in front of old, and so sad. New buildings just casting shadows. That's it. That's all they do is cast shadows. Could be like Macbeth. Is this a shadow I see before me? That's all it is. Because if you look up, it's nothing. The most hated man is he who tells the truth. Who said that? Plato. Good. I feel for your disgust on those demolishings. Yes, the history show will be a cracking subject matter. I'm going to finish on that. I'm so made up that you've joined me, because I was late. Honestly, it crashed on me. And then I rebooted it, and I thought it's not coming on. And I was sitting in my living room, so then all of a sudden, it came on. So I shut back in. I heard a tons of clap, unless it was one of these. Was it one of them? Get that Carlyle. But anyway, as I said, thank you so much for joining me. I'm on tomorrow morning, film and TV review. Okay, I'd love you to join. Be alive. I hope you enjoyed tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you. I do half appreciate it. Great comments as well, by the way. Thank you. See you tomorrow. A domani. Ci vediamo. Ciao, Bel.